OJ. There are a lot of different archetypes in the game. Right now you can build 64 trillion different types of decks and deploy millions of different strategies inside the arena. So it's not as simple as rock, paper, scissors as some say, where there are only 3 variables. There's a new archetype surfacing the meta. But before we get into that, let's talk about the current ones where you may have already heard about. The beatdown archetype is the type of deck where you have heavy tanks. Think Golem, or P.E.K.K.A, or even the Lava Hound. It doesn't necessarily always need Golem in there, but the general way of beatdown is that you can afford to trade 2,500 tower damage and even lose that Princess Tower to gain a 10 or even a 20 elixir lead so they can build up a mega push in the opposite lane. This doesn't always result in a 3 crown, but the principle is that you can afford to trade tower health for elixir. Then you have the control archetype. This plays different from beatdown. You don't trade tower health for elixir. You trade units to gain more elixir potential on the map. Splashnado plays like control. You only play bowler when there's an incoming hog or something else big. The hog may get 1 hit on your tower, but now you're up a full health 5 elixir bowler and they're down 4 elixir. You use this 5 elixir bowler advantage to counterattack. Right as he crosses the bridge, you'll have graveyard and poison. They won't have nearly as much elixir to defend against the bowler, and the cheap units won't be enough to defend the graveyard poison combo. The cycle archetype is really iconic. Think 2.6 hog. This is where you can afford small pushes like a 4 elixir hog to get 1 hit on their tower. You'll be down elixir, but you can defend almost everything with Ice Spirit, Skeletons, or even the Ice Golem. Once you've defended with these cheap cards, you've already cycled back to your hog and they have no counters to the hog. You cycle them out of rotation. And then you've got bridge spam where you put stuff down at the bridge at the right moment, of course. And you're going to be able to destroy the tower with these really aggressive fast units. Siege is an iconic archetype and one that I use during my level 8 days because you engage from your side of the river. The strength of Siege is that you never need to engage from the enemy side. Thus, you're able to take on higher level towers. Hence, why many of the Siege archetypes have Rocket as a finisher card. We've got Bait, which surfaced into the meta in 2017. This is where we started seeing more cards being introduced, such as the Dart Goblin and the Princess. This really requires you to card count their log or fireball arrows or whatever spell they have and know when it's out of rotation for you to connect your bait card like a Goblin Barrel onto their tower. This is the perfect example of an archetype that starts to surface because of the continual release of new cards and new mechanics. Spawners are a subcategory of control. A true spawner deck places down buildings to gain a passive elixir advantage by simply having more units exist on the map. Now, we've got the dual lane archetype. This has existed for as long as 3 Musketeers have existed, but were not viable when it first came out in February of 2016 because the 3 Musketeers, they cost 10 elixir back then. Then the following month in March of 2016, they were buffed to cost only 9 elixir. This is when people started to see the potential of this card. You could place them in the back and you could still kind of manage to defend with Skeletons, Goblins, Spear Goblins, really cheap units back then. Now come July of 2016, the Ice Spirit is released. The 3M card starts to make more sense. You're able to lower the average cost of this deck and it becomes more and more viable as time passes. October 2016. The dual lane archetype is starting to see options now. The Ice Golem is invented. It pairs well with the Miner. Players are starting to dual lane pressure with 3 Musketeers. The pioneers of 3M such as Darth Jar Jar are starting to become respected as pro 3M players. But it's still a volatile card that costs too much and doesn't quite make sense in pro plays consistently yet. Then, come February of 2017, the Battle Ram is released. This is the secondary tank that solidifies its position in the 3M archetype, not only to add pressure in one lane with the complements of an Ice Golem, but also to act as a lightning rod for 2 Musketeers when you know it's coming. December 2017, Zappies are released into the game. Not quite enough to put the dual lane archetype on the map just yet, too fragile. Though we're starting to see more cards you can split. Some say players are still waiting for OJ's Zappy Tech video. but have learned to split zappies without the video. June 2018, piglets are released into the game. They can be split. This is the moment the dual lane archetype cements itself into the meta with more than just 3M. These babies are one of the most unique cards in the game because of their special role to fit into the dual lane archetype.